Hello everybody, it's Juliet here. So today we're going to be making this lemon slice and it is quite sturdy. It will stay solid. It's not going to flop around. And I was just showing one option. You could with these little gold colored leaves from PandaHall, which is where all of these materials came from, you could put them, arrange it like this and have then a chain. So it could be, a necklace or even a brooch. You could put a brooch back here. From the unboxing, I also have these hair clips. So you could put the lemon on here and maybe put some green beaded leaves coming out on this side or that side, put it like this and have a couple leaves coming down here. So there's a lot of where you can just have it as an earring. So there's a lot of versatility with this little lemon wedge. Does take a little bit of time to do the bead weaving. I mean, it looks deceptively simple on the front, but it's actually a little bit involved, but it is all quite simple. A lot of square stitch and just some right angle weave. So let me go over all the materials you're going to need. So first of all, I am using some Delica beads, and these are from PandaHall. And I do have a coupon code if you are a new customer to PandaHall where you can get 10% off. And I will put that code up at the top of the screen really quickly for you. So do go and check them out. They have so many really nice materials. It's such a big website and their prices are really, really good. Delivery is quite quick, usually a week or less. So definitely go check out PandaHall. Okay, so you're using some MIYUKI Delicas, and the Delica number is 1531. Okay, that's what color I'm using. So it's a kind of off-white for the pulpy bit. And then I also have here some MIYUKI 11 rounds, again from PandaHall. And these are the round Rocailles 422D. Okay, so that's the MIYUKI number 422D. And I also have a 4mm gemstone. So this is Lemon Jade. All of these items will be linked down below. So just one of those for the little center bit of the lemon. Okay, so that's 4mm. If you don't have that, you could use a pearl or something. You can or cannot have these. It's up to you. These are smaller little wedges that I got, and I will practice making a lime or something with those as well. Okay, and then you will need 5 of these, which come in this big pack. So I think it comes with 50. And these are 12 by 7.5 is what I measured. Okay, so 12mm long, 7.5. So look up pear or teardrop rhinestone. Again, I'll put a link to that. They come in different sizes. So this is the smallest size, the little green ones. This is the medium size, and then they had a bigger size. So you're looking for the 12mm by 7.5mm. Like I said, you'll need 5 of those for one lemon wedge. Or if you're doing a whole lemon, which is possible, you just would not sew the second layer here, you would need 10. Okay, so, and then the only other thing you're going to need is some thread. Today I am using Fireline, the 8-pound, simply because we will be sewing around some of the prongs on the settings, and I just don't want it to cut. Okay, so I am using some Fireline in 8-pound, but any beading thread that you choose should work. And obviously you'll need a beading needle and some scissors and a little bit of patience because it does take a little while. And you're going to need quite a lot of thread. I would get a full wingspan of thread to start, and you may have to add some on at the end, okay? So I'll just get this cleared off and then we'll get started. Okay, so we are ready to begin. I've got my needle threaded up. And the first thing you're going to want to do is just check all the settings are closed. Every now and again you might find one that's not completely closed, but it doesn't have to be super, super tight. Like if there's a little bit of a gap in between, that's okay because we are going to be sewing through. You just want to make sure that they are all holding that rhinestone in place there, okay? So just check all your settings first of all, and then you're going to begin to sew, and we're going to leave a 4-inch tail. So holding your wedge this way up, okay, you're going to go in the bottom of the wedge, and you're going to pick up 3 of your Delica beads. So 3 of your Delicas, and you're going to go into the top hole on that wedge so that they are sitting along the side like that, okay? And then you're going to repeat that on this side. So 3 Delicas. So now you have 3 on each side, and then you're going to sew through the first set of Delicas that you went into. Sew through all 3 of those. Okay, so this is kind of right angle weave what we're doing here. So now we're going to pick up our next wedge, and our next wedge is going to sit like this next to our first wedge. So we're going to sew through the pointy end away from where our current wedge is, okay, and it's gonna just sit right there like that. And then we're going to pick up 3 Delica beads, and we're going to sew through the second hole, okay. And then we're going to sew down these 3 Delicas that are already here connected to our first wedge, okay? And then we're going to sew through the hole. And the nice thing about this is you can bend it back at this point to see where the holes are. So it's not too tricky at this point to find the holes, okay? All right. And you'll notice we haven't tied any knots or anything at this point, okay? And then we're going to sew down through our 3 Delica beads on the outside edge. Then we're going to look at our next lemon wedge, and we're going to sew through the upper hole, okay, upper hole. Just think about where you want it to connect. So I want it to connect here, yes, okay, and that way you'll know if you're sewing through the upper or the lower hole, okay. Again, pick up your 3 Delicas and then sew through the lower hole, okay, so sewing through the lower hole of the wedge. And I just need to tighten that all up. And then I'm going to go up the 3 Delicas in between the 2 beads. And then I'm going to go through the upper hole to get to the outside. So hopefully this is all making sense to you. So we're just going to repeat this process for the next 2 wedges. So go down your Delicas, go through your wedge, Like I say, if you're not sure where you're supposed to go, just hold it in place and you'll be able to see where you need to go, okay? And pick up our 3 for the outside. Go down through your Delicas on the inside, through the wedge. And always remember, once you've come through the wedge, you do have to go up through those Delica beads. Oh, I've actually come through one of them. And then we're going to add our last wedge on. And add those 3. Go through and up through the 3 Delicas. Just tighten all that. And through the top hole again on your setting. Okay, so we have our initial joins in place now, so you can see they are all joined together. Okay, so now you're going to go down through these 3 on the edge, and you're going to pick up 4 Delicas, your 4mm gemstone, and 4 more Delicas. And then you're going to, so I'm coming out at the top here, I'm going to sew straight into the 3 Delicas opposite right here. Okay, so just sew straight down into those in a straight line, and that will look like this. Okay, and just keep your tail out of the way for now. Put it down below. Okay, so you have a line like this, and don't worry if it doesn't look centered or whatever at the moment, because these are all still quite loose. Now we're going to pick up 11 Delicas. Okay, so that is 11. So 3, 3, 3, and 2. Okay, so 11 Delicas. And you're going to sew into the 3 in between the first 2 wedges here. So just sew straight down through those 3. Okay. Then you're going to pick up 4. And you're going to sew down the first 4 coming from where that gemstone is, and you want them to sit on that side of your wedge. Okay, so there we have that. Now we're going to sew through our through our setting. Okay, to get to the other side, I'm going to flip this over. And I'm going to sew up through 4. So the 3 that are in between are 2. So I'm skipping. So here's the 4 that we just added right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to sew up the 3 that were in between our wedges plus 1. So you're going to sew up 4 of those, okay? Like this. And then you're going to pick up 10 Delicas. So that's 10. And you're going to repeat. You're going to go down through the 3 on this side, okay, of the next wedge to put that around. And then you're going to pick up 4. And you're going to go up through the 4 from where your gemstone is, the first 4 on the previous row, okay? So go up through those 4, like this, and this will just sit like that, okay? And don't worry if there's a big gap here, that's okay. We're gonna fix all of this in a minute. Okay, so once you've gone up your first 4, you're going to sew through the setting. Okay. And then you're going to skip the 4 that you just added, which were 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, skip those 4. Here are the 3 that are joining the 2 together. So I'm going to go up those 3 plus 1 more. So I'm going up 4 Delicas there. Okay. And then I'm going to add 10. So that is 10. And then I'm going to go down the 3 here. And I'm just going to repeat this for all the rest of the wedges. So you add 10, you pick up 4 for the point, you go up the 4 from the previous row, the first 4 on the previous row, and they will sit in there. You go through your wedge, the lower hole of your wedge, and then starting from where the 4, after the 4, you go up the 3 that joined your 2 wedges together plus 1, so 4 in total, and you just repeat, okay? So go ahead and repeat that. So it's 10, go down, add 4, go up 4, go through, go up 4, add 10. So it's the same all the way, the rest of the way around, okay? So I'll do that, and I'll come back when I'm just adding my 10 here to show you what we're doing next. Okay, so I'm about to add my last 10 to go over my very last thing, and I'm just going to go all the way down and come out right before the gemstone, okay? And then I still need to connect this, so I need to go up the first 4 here. Even though I don't need to add 4, I still need to connect the 4. So go up those first 4 and go through your setting. And then you can go down the 4 at the front plus your gemstone plus the first Delica after the gemstone. So 4 gemstone plus your first Delica, okay? So now we have this, so it's kind of starting to come together. Oh, it looks like I'm I must have missed the going under and just gone straight through. Oopsies. Okay, I'll have to fix that. That's okay. I'm going to carry on and pretend that nothing happened. Make sure you are going through your settings, okay? All right. So once you're coming out from your first Delica, you're going to pick up a Delica bead, you're going to go down the next Delica on the little, let's call these spokes, okay? So you're going to go down the second Delica like this. And this guy is just going to kind of sit like this, okay? Then you're going to sew back through the bead that you just added, that Delica that's sitting on the top. You're going to sew back towards where you came from, okay? And then you're going to sew up into that very first Delica again. Okay. Then you're going to sew through the Delica again on the top to get to the next position. You're going to sew down the Delica on the second spoke. And he's just going to kind of hang out on top of these other Delicas right here, okay? So now we're going to pick up another Delica. So we're coming out from the bottom of the second spoke Delica. So I'm going to go into the bottom of the third spoke Delica. Okay. I'm going to go back through the Delica I just added. And then I'm going to go down through the Delica on the second spoke. And then I'm going to go through the top Delica again. And then I'm going to go up the third spoke. Okay, so now I have two beads, and this is going to look a little bit weird until we tighten this up. Okay, so coming out the top here, so I'm going to go into the top of the next on the fourth, I guess it's the third gap there. Okay, so go ahead, pick up a Delica, go down. So if you're coming out the top, you're always going into the bottom. Here I'm coming out the bottom, so I'm going to have to sew back through the Delica I just added. I was coming out the bottom, so I have to enter into the bottom of the previous spoke and then sew through again the top. So I was coming out the top there, so I'm going to enter into the top of the next Delica and sew towards the gemstone. So you just have to remember if you're coming from the top or the bottom. So now I'm coming out the bottom, so I enter into the bottom of the next spoke. Adding a Delica there. And then I sew back through that Delica. So I'm coming out the top of the bead, so I have to enter into the top of the next bead on the next spoke back. Now I'm coming out the bottom, so I'm going to sew through back through that Delica and then enter into the bottom of the Delica on that spoke. Then I have one more to add, so we're going to add 5 in total. Basically it's 1 at each point of our lemon. Okay, so I am coming out of the top, so I'm going to enter into the top of the one right next to the gemstone. So now I'm coming out the bottom, I have to remember that, and then I'm going to go through the Delica. I was coming out the bottom, so I need to enter into the bottom of the next spoke. And now I'm coming out the top, so I'm going to go through, pass through that Delica again, Okay, so we've now added our 5, so we're just going to sew through the first Delica and through our gemstone. Okay, now we're going to just sew around those 5 Delicas that we just added in the last round that are kind of on the top, straight from your gemstone. So go ahead and just sew through those 5, and that's going to kind of pull them in around your gemstone. And we will reinforce this in a minute, but try and kind of get them pulled in a little bit so that it looks a little nicer, and then go straight through your gemstone when you get to the end. Okay, so this is now what we have, okay? And I'm coming out from the gemstone. So I'm going to enter into the very first Delica after the gemstone. Okay, so once you're coming out from the first Delica after the gemstone, pick up 1 Delica bead and sew into that Delica again, plus 2 more. So you're going through the other side, like my thread's coming out this way, I'm going into the farther side, plus 2 more Delicas. Okay. And this bead is just going to sit hanging out next to the other bead, okay? Then we're going to repeat that. So go ahead and pick up another Delica, go into the Delica bead that you're coming out from, so enter into the other side of that, plus 2 more. And you're going to keep repeating this all the way until we get over here. So just keep picking up the Delica, so into the same one that you're coming out of. This is square stitch right here is what we're doing. And they're just going to hang out. They might flip up, they might flip down. Don't worry about that right this second. Just continue on going back through the one that you did, plus 1 more, plus 2 more. And when you get around your wedge, on this last one before where it starts to curve in, you're going to add your bead, and you're only going to go through 1 extra bead right here. So instead of going through 3, you're only going through 2. Okay, so you want to be coming out. Sorry, I got hooked on my. You want to be coming out right before. So this is the bead that is a joint bead, and then there's 2. And you're coming out the next bead after that. You're going to add 1 Delica, so pick up 1 Delica, and these are the 2 that are like a pair. Okay, so there's our single bead, and then a pair, and then the next bead. So this is the opposite. So I'm going to sew into that bead plus the next bead, so 2 beads. Okay, so I've added that 1 and I've sewn through 2, okay? And then I'm going to just continue on, and here you're only going to do 3, so pick up 1, sew into the 1, plus 2, just like what we've been doing. Pick up 1 plus 2. Here, you're going to pick up 1 and you're going to go through only 2 beads instead of 3. Okay, so pick up 1, because remember, we're not entering into those 2 right after the split. Okay, so you're just going through 2. So each wedge should have 3 spiky out beads. Then you're going to pick up 1 coming out after the first pair and going into that bead plus 1 more. So you're only going in 2 right here. Okay. Then again, pick up 1 and repeat. And on the third one, you go through the same bead plus 1. You add 1 in between. So look at where your pairs are and go into the next bead plus 1. And just repeat for the next 2 wedges. And then when you get here, just keep going until you get back to your gemstone. So just continue on in this way until you get back to your gemstone. And I'll come back once I've done that. Okay, so I've continued on. So the only place it's different is here where you have to add that 1 in between there. And make sure that you're not going through those first 2. You're only going through the second 2. Okay, so you should have most of it. Anyway, I just need to add my very last Delica here on the first Delica before my gemstone, and then I'm just going to pass through the gemstone and through that first Delica after the gemstone on the bottom layer. Okay. And then I'm going to turn and go into the upper layer here. Okay, so I'm just turned and went straight into the Delica up above. And then I'm going to go through these 5 upper Delicas around this little center gemstone again. Okay. And this is going to pull all of this in a little bit more. And when I get to the end, I'm going to continue through that very first Delica that's attached to the bottom layer, okay? So the top Delica that we just added a second ago. Okay, so that's all pulled in now. And I'm coming out from this top Delica. So here, all I'm going to do is pick up 1 Delica. I'm going to go into the next of our little spiky, sticky outy Delicas, okay? And here we have a prong, okay? You see that? There's a prong right there. So I'm going to pick up a Delica. I'm going to sew backwards through the prong. Now you may be able to slip your thread over instead of sewing through. You just want to be really careful doing this that you don't cut your thread by accident, okay? And then once you've done that, you're going to enter into that Delica again. So basically, let me show you what's happened here. So we've sewn through our thread and then sewn back into that Delica again. And if I tighten, it's going to pull it up against that stone. Okay, and then I can sew into the next sticking up Delica that we just added in the last round, okay? And then I'm going to sew again, pick up a Delica, go through the next Delica, pick up a Delica, go through the next Delica, and then here again, here is a prong. So I'm going to pick up a Delica, I'm going to sew through the prong, going backwards, okay? And then I'm going to sew forward through that Delica that I just added. So I've hooked around the prong. You have to be really careful here, okay? And then I go into the next Delica. Okay, so see how that's kind of pulling this all up into shape along the edge of that wedge, okay? And we're going to kind of repeat this all the way around. So everywhere that you have no prong is just normal. So you just pick up a Delica, sew into the next Delica, pick up a Delica, sew into the next Delica. Here we have a prong. So we're going to pick up a Delica, sew backwards through the prong, sew forward through that Delica, okay, and then here, this is on the lower level, this one that's in between that we added, remember? So you're going to pick up a Delica, you're going to sew backwards through that lower in between bead, so back towards where you're coming from, and then you're going to sew forward through that Delica. So we're just square stitching that onto the one down below, okay? And then here we have a prong, so we have to pick up your Delica, sew backwards through the prong, sew forward through the Delica you just added, and forward through the next Delica. Okay, so the next two are just normal. We just pick up and sew through the next bead, pick up and sew through the next bead, and I'll show you again how to do this junction because this is really the most complicated area of it. So you pick up your Delica, you sew backwards through your prong, and notice how I'm pulling really slowly and gently while I'm doing this. I'm not pulling super tight, okay? Forward through the Delica I just added. And then I have to pick up one, so backwards through that in between lower down Delica, okay? Forward through the Delica I just added on top. Pick up another Delica, so backwards through the prong. So forward through that Delica I just added, and forward through the next Delica. And I'm just going to repeat this all the way around. So you're going to add two, then you're going to do the prong thing, the down below thing, and the prong thing. You're going to add two, and you're going to just go all the way around. And here you're going to go all the way until you get to that very first upper Delica where you're just filling in, okay? So I'll trust you to do that, and I'll be back in a minute. So when you get around to the outside, don't forget to do this prong, and there should be a gap, which will be between your second and third Delica for that prong where you sew backwards. So just remember those two outer prongs when you're working, okay? Because it's kind of easy to get excited because you're almost at the end and then forget what you're doing. Okay, so I'll just quickly whiz through this. Okay, so I am adding my very last one on. And so now you should have a nice edge along all the way around. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start to add our first layer of our rind on. So we need to get over there first of all. So I'm going to sew through the 5 on the top and sew through the top layer until I get to the one where the prong is attached. Okay. Okay, so I'm coming out of the bead where the prong is attached, and I'm going to sew down into the bead below it. So I'm coming out going in this direction, so I have to sew backwards towards myself here, okay? Then I'm going to pick up one of our seed beads, our rounds, and I'm going to sew again through that bead, okay? And then I'm going to sew through the round. I'm going to pick up another. I'm going to sew through the next bead, the next Delica back towards myself, and then I'm going to sew through that round. And I'm going to continue doing this through all of these lower beads on the lower layer. Every single one is going to have a round attached to it. So you sew backwards through the Delica, forward through the round. Pick up a round, backwards through the Delica, forward through the round. And I'm just working on the lower level. Okay. And you're going to do this all the way until you get over to where the prong is on this end. And then we'll do our second layer, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay. So I'll just continue working as normal through all the Delicas, adding on our round. Okay, so I'm about to add my last one on, which will be on the row that is below the prong. And you may have run out of thread already. I am about to run out of thread, and that's normal. This does use a lot of thread. So I am going to show you the turn around, and then I'll have to add some more thread to complete this. But so it should look like this at this point. Okay, so you have one row of seed beads on that lower, attached onto those lower Delicas. Okay. So we're going to turn around now. So what we're going to do is you're going to sew into the corresponding lower Delica that your bead is attached onto. Try not to get looped around everything. That's my tail. I'll get that out of the way for you. Okay, so I sewed back into the lower Delica, and then I'm going to sew into the upper Delica. So here we're going to pick up a bead, sew away, okay, and then sew forward, and we're going to do the same thing again that we did on the lower layer. So everywhere that there's a Delica, you're sewing backwards, like away from the direction you're moving, and then forward through the bead that you just added. Okay, so again, I'm coming forward, so I pick up a bead, I go backwards through the next Delica on the top layer, forward through the bead I just added, pick up a bead, backwards through the next Delica, it's basically the same thing as the last row. And then we will only have one step left, which will be to join our 2 layers together. So I will complete that, and then I will come back when I am at the end. Okay, so I'm about to add my last one on the upper row here. So just the one next to the prong is where we stop. So, and go. All right, so here we are. We have 2 layers, but they are not joined together at this point. And you can see where I added on some extra thread. Okay, so what you're going to do here is you're going to go forward. So I'm coming out the top. I'm going to go into the bottom first 2. Okay, and then I'm going to go up backwards through the first 2. And then I'm going to go through 3. And I'm going to go through 2 here. Sorry, no, I'm going to go through all 3. So I'm going to go through all 3, okay? So that's establishing us. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move forward through 5 beads. Okay, so you go through 5. And then you move back 3. And this is going to be our pattern the whole way down. So the whole way down, we're going to go forward 5. So just look at where, you know, the equivalent bead is. You're going to go through 5 beads and you're going to go backwards 3 beads, forward 5, backwards 3 until you get to the end. And this is what eats so much thread, is all of this rind bit here. So I went forward 5, I'm going back 3. And you just have to be careful that you're going into the correct corresponding bead across the alleyway here, so that you don't mess up your rows. So going forward 5. And going back 3. So I will leave you to do that, and I will return once I get to the end. Okay, sorry, I thought it was recording and it wasn't. So when you get to the end, you should be able to go through 5, go back 3, go forward 3, go back 2, go forward 2, and that should reinforce everything at the end. And then if you wanted to put your hanging loop for an earring, for example, if you were doing an earring, you could put a loop on whichever end you need to. And the other thing you might want to do is run up and down these 2 bits here just to help smooth them out a little bit. They will never be perfect. Like, as you can see here, it's still a little bit holy because of the way we sewed it with 2, skipping every other one and then filling in. But that's okay, because that is, you know, the pulpy side, and probably nobody's going to be looking at that. They'll be looking at the front of it anyway. So go ahead and just reinforce any areas that, you know, if you're not really happy with how this is, you might want to run through that again. Reinforce anywhere that you think needs reinforcing, and then you can tie off your threads. So anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this project. I think they came out really cute. I really like how they look and feel, and they're very sparkly. So do go and check out PandaHall, where you can get, I want to say this is like $2 or $3 for all of these. I mean, the prices are just really good. And I'll remind you again of the coupon code. I will put link for that down below as well, in case you forget. And I hope you have a citrusy summer, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. Thanks for watching.